You open your phone, you scroll for a minute, you close it again. Nothing happened. No one texted, no one called. The feed was just noise. And yet the quiet that follows feels heavier than it should. You are not alone in a room. You are alone in a way that feels wrong. Your ancestors knew loneliness too, but it did not feel like this. For most of human history, loneliness was a short, sharp signal. It meant the group was too far away. It meant you had wandered past the edge of safety. It meant the fire was no longer in sight and the voices of the others had dropped below the wind. That kind of loneliness had a clear shape. It had a direction. It had a solution. We walk back. Modern loneliness does not. It sits in the middle of a crowded city. It sits in a group chat that never stops. It sits in a house full of people who are all looking at different screens. It has no edge to walk back from. And your body still treats it like the older kind. The difference is not just cultural, it is biological. For roughly 300,000 years, the human nervous system evolved inside small, stable bands. Most estimates place the typical group size somewhere between 25 and 150 people. These were not acquaintances. These were the same faces, the same voices, the same bodies moving through the same landscape day after day. Physical proximity was the default. Separation was temporary, and usually intentional. When someone was missing, the group noticed. When someone returned, the group registered it. The social world was dense, continuous, and mostly face-to-face. Your brain still expects that density. It expects to hear the low murmur of familiar voices in the background. It expects to feel the weight of other bodies nearby even when no one is speaking. It expects the micro-signals of belonging, a glance, a shared task, the simple fact of being included in the circle around the fire. When those signals are missing for long periods, the nervous system does not interpret the absence as neutral. It interprets it as risk. Anthropologists who have lived with remaining hunter-gatherer groups have described the same pattern again and again. Among the Hadza, among the Kung, among various Amazonian and Australian groups, prolonged isolation is rare and usually treated as a problem to be solved. People do not romanticize solitude the way modern cultures sometimes do. Solitude was something that happened when you were hunting alone or gathering far from camp. It had a time limit. When the limit was exceeded, the body began to register threat. That threat response is still in you. Chronic loneliness raises cortisol. It increases inflammation. It weakens immune function. Studies comparing lonely and non-lonely people show measurable differences in gene expression related to antiviral response and inflammatory signaling. The body behaves as if it is under sustained social threat even when no predator is present and no rival group is nearby. The ancient version of loneliness was acute. The modern version is chronic. That is the core difference. Acute loneliness ends when you rejoin the group. The nervous system receives the all-clear signal and the stress response shuts down. Chronic loneliness has no all-clear. The low-level alarm stays on. The system never fully resets. You can feel the difference in the quality of the feeling itself. Ancient loneliness, as far as we can reconstruct it, carried urgency. It focused attention outward. It motivated movement back toward the others. Modern loneliness often turns attention inward. It loops. It becomes a background condition rather than a temporary state. One reason is the structure of modern social life. Most of us now live in environments where the number of people we encounter daily is high, but the number of people who truly know us is low. Weak ties have multiplied, strong ties have thinned. Digital connection has increased the frequency of contact while decreasing its depth and its physical presence. Your nervous system did not evolve to distinguish between a notification and a real voice at the edge of the fire. It only knows that the familiar signals of belonging are scarce. The result is a form of loneliness that can exist even when you are rarely alone. You can sit in a cafe full of people and still feel it. You can be in a relationship and still feel it. You can have hundreds of online connections and still feel it. The body is not counting the number of available humans. It is counting the number of reliable, embodied, reciprocal relationships that register as safety. When that number drops below the threshold the nervous system expects, the ancient alarm begins to sound. This is why modern loneliness so often feels confusing. The environment does not match the internal signal. There is no obvious danger. There is no clear direction to walk. The feeling persists anyway. Researchers studying loneliness across cultures have found that the subjective experience tracks more closely with the quality of social bonds than with objective solitude. People in dense urban environments can report higher loneliness than people in smaller communities with fewer total contacts. The critical variable is not isolation in the physical sense. It is the absence of the specific forms of connection the human brain was calibrated for. Your ancestors could be physically alone for hours while hunting and not experience the same quality of distress, because they knew the group still existed and that they would return to it. The social world remained intact in the background. Modern life often removes that background continuity. The group is no longer a stable shared reality that persists when you look away. It is fragmented across apps, schedules, and shifting attention. The body notices the difference. There is also the matter of timescale. In a small band, social ruptures were usually repaired or resolved within days. Conflict, exclusion, or temporary separation had a limited duration because the group was small and interdependent. Modern social ruptures can stretch for months or years. Ghosting, silent treatment, geographic distance, and the simple logistics of contemporary life allow loneliness to become a long-term condition rather than a short-term state. The nervous system has no evolved mechanism for that duration. It keeps treating the situation as an emergency that has not yet been resolved. This is why the feeling can become so heavy. It is not just the absence of company. It is the prolonged activation of a threat system that was designed for brief, solvable separation. You can see the mismatch in the way people try to solve modern loneliness. Many reach for more connection in the form of more contact, more messages, more scrolling, more weak ties. The ancient system is not satisfied by volume. It is satisfied by a specific kind of presence, consistent, embodied, mutual, and embedded in a shared reality. Digital substitutes often fail to deliver those features, so the alarm continues. Others try to fix the feeling by force of will, or by reframing it as a personal failing. The body does not respond to that either. The signal is not a judgment. It is a biological request for a particular form of social safety that the current environment is not providing. None of this means the ancient world was free of suffering. People lost group members to death, to conflict, to migration. Loneliness existed, but its texture was different because its context was different. It was usually bounded in time and space. It pointed toward a concrete action. Modern loneliness is often unbounded. It has no obvious exit. That is what makes it feel so distinct. Your body is still running the older program. It is still waiting for the sound of familiar voices nearby. It is still waiting for the physical reassurance that the group is intact. When those signals do not arrive, it does not conclude that the world has changed. It concludes that something is wrong. The wrongness is real. It is just not the wrongness the system was built to detect. You are not broken for feeling it. You are calibrated for a world that no longer exists by default. The loneliness you feel in a quiet apartment at night, or in a crowded feed that never quite reaches you, is the same ancient signal that once meant the fire is too far. The difference is that the fire is no longer a place you can simply walk back to. Understanding the difference does not make the feeling disappear, but it can change the way the feeling sits in the body. It is not a private defect. It is a public mismatch between an old nervous system and a new social landscape. Your ancestors felt loneliness when the group was out of reach. You feel it when the group has been replaced by something that only looks like a group from a distance. The signal is the same. The world that answers it is not. If you made it this far, you are exactly the kind of person this channel exists for. We make videos like this one every week,